Hello everyone. Today we'll talk about modal verbs. From the previous course, you are familiar with some modal verbs, can and could. Yes, they mean when somebody is able to do something or isn't able to do something. So today we'll continue studying other modal verbs. I want to mention some features of these modal verbs. There are two features. Actually, first feature is that modal verbs don't change their forms for all persons, except have to. So, and the second feature is modal verbs. After modal verbs, we use bare infinitive. It means infinitive without to. Again, except have to. Here, have to. So, today we will talk about should, shouldn't, and ought to, oughtn't to. Plus subject plus should, shouldn't, plus infinitive without to. When do we use this structure? When we give advice somebody to do something or not to do. And when we say we think is right, what we think is right. For example, he is angry now. He shouldn't make any decision. You should stay at home. It is dark and dangerous outside. We use shouldn't, should, yes? For he and you, it's the same. As I mentioned before, for all person, we use should, shouldn't. For he, she, it, we, they, I, yes? Okay, next, here, please remember, when we say I think, we use positive version of should. I think you should, or I don't think you should, not I think you shouldn't. We don't say like that. That's why we just, when we express our opinion, we don't use shouldn't. For example, I don't think you should go to the nightclub. I don't think. Okay, now about ought to and oughtn't to. Should and ought to, they have similar meaning. We can use ought to instead should. So, for example, you should stay at home, and we can change it into ought to. You ought to stay at home. The meaning is the same. Now about might and might not. We use subject plus might not, plus infinitive without to, in order to say that perhaps somebody will or won't do something. For example, they might go to the mountain, but it depends on the weather. I might not shoot a video. I don't have enough time. Might not isn't usually contracted. We use full form might and not. Okay, now alternative word of might, it is may. For example, we may go to the mountain tomorrow instead of might, yes? I may not shoot a video. I may not shoot a video. Might and may is the same for all persons again. Have to and don't have to. Let's talk about these modal verbs a little bit longer because it's quite tricky when we have other modal verb, another modal verb, must. So, have to plus verb we use when we say about rules, general obligations. For example, I have to wear a suit at work. It's general obligation for all people at school. Not at school, I'm sorry, at work, yes, at work. All of them should wear suit. Okay, when we use don't have to plus verb we use for when we say there is no obligation and no necessity to do something. For example, she doesn't have to work on Sunday. It depends on her. She can work. She may not go to work. In that meaning. So, does and do. We use these auxiliary verbs to make questions or negatives. For example, do I have to wear? Or does she have to work? Yes. If you remember when I talked about have to and this is the question. This is the word which we change the form. Yes, we change the form for he, she, it. S we add s. That's why we use does. Okay, so and I have to. Yes, as I mentioned, have to is changeable and not the same for all persons. Now about must, mustn't. Must plus infinitive without to we use for rules and the personal obligations. In the previous slide we said that we use have to for general obligations for all people. It's a rule for all people. But here must for just personal obligations. For example, I must bake a cake. Tomorrow is a birthday brother of mine. So, mustn't plus infinitive without to we use when we talk that something is prohibited. For example, I mustn't forget to call my mom. I mustn't forget. It's very important for me. Yes. Okay. Now about questions and negative forms. In question, we don't need any auxiliary verbs when we have modal verbs, except have to. So, in question form, we put modal verbs before the subject. So the structure will be like this: modal verb plus subject plus verb, except have to. In have to, I said that we use does and do. Yes. In interrogative sentence, we use subject plus modal verb plus not plus verb. Here again, we don't need any don't, doesn't, or isn't, or what aren't. Yes, we don't need any auxiliary verbs. Except have to again. We need here doesn't. So, thank you for your attention. I hope it was useful and see you next lesson.